Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, and these are the adventures of Wally and Jeffery, orphans of Snod Hill. If you were watching last time, I was telling you the story about Wally and Jeffery flying their kite. Oh, and they had such a lovely time, except that the wind blew the kite right up to the very top of Snod Hill Orphanage. It was a nightmare because Whiffy Bum, that's Mrs Slimebottom, came out and told Jeffery he has got to get the kite down. Jeffery, you heard what Mrs Slimebottom said. You've got to go up there and get the kite down. Oh, Wally, how am I going to do that? Very simple. You go and get the ladder and lean it up against the building, climb up and get it. What? Up a ladder? Well, we haven't got a ladder, have we, Wally? Yes. Chalky White's got a ladder, hasn't he? Chalky White was the caretaker. That wasn't his real name. His real name was Mr Lowry. But they called him Chalky White on account of all the dandruff. It had a tendency to flop out of his head and sprinkle all over his shoulders. Come along, Jeffery. You take that end and I'll take this. Together they took hold of the ladder, they brought the next section and fixed that on. They got hold of the third bit of ladder and they fixed that on. They did it with all the bits of ladders until all the ladders made one very, very long ladder that almost reached the chimney pot, but not quite. But it did get up as far as the roof. Come along, Jeffery. You climb up the ladder and fetch that kite. Wally, I can't climb the ladder. I don't like heights. What do you mean you don't like heights? They make me go weird. My head goes all dizzy if I go up anything above 3 foot. I can't do it, Wally. What do you mean you can't do it? I've got vertigo. You got there to go. Now come on, don't muck about. Why don't you do it then if you're so clever? I can't do it. I'm allergic to wood. Wood? Hang on a minute. You've been up in the treehouse. That's made of wood. The trees are all full of wood. They're living wood. They're all living, aren't they? I'm not allergic to those. Then what are you allergic to? I'm allergic to dead wood. And you're like a piece of dead wood. Now get up that ladder and hurry up. Oh, all right. Poor old Jeffery had no choice. He grabbed hold of the rungs, one after the other, and very slowly he took himself up. At each step, he felt his stomach have butterflies and his head started to spin. He got halfway up and suddenly he was aware of a face watching him. It was Mrs Slimebottom peering out of the window, and she didn't look very happy. Mrs Slimebottom, I should mention, has an ugly face. She has warts and pimples and spots, and each of them have little tiny hairs growing out of them, and they're quite grotesque. Jeffery was absolutely petrified that she was going to open the window and swipe him. Jeffery, she said, you hurry up and fetch that kite. Yes, Mrs Slimebottom. Up he went with trepidation. He managed to clamber up onto the roof, grabbing hold of the gutter that ran across the top by the eaves. As he lifted himself up, the gutter bent like this. Now, unfortunately, the day before, it had been raining, and in the gutter there was still a load of water that hadn't evaporated or trickled away. It was mucky and brown and a little bit smelly, and it trickled along, came down the side and went straight down to the ground. Wally, however, was looking up. Oh! And he got a faceful of horrid water. Jeffery, you! He got so angry, he got hold of the ladder and he started to wobble it. Jeffery was wobbling. Oh, what are you doing? Help! He clambered up onto the slate roof as fast as his legs would take him until he got right up onto the sharp apex, the pointy bit. Just then, a bird, a great big seagull, swooped down towards him. Woof! It flew. Woof! Woof! Go away! Get out of it! Go up! Stop it! Stop it! Jeffery managed to get rid of the bird and he started to walk along the apex of the roof. Da, 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 da. And he was just in sight of the chimney pot and the kite. At last! And at that moment, he noticed a sheet of glass. Oh, the glass opened up and a head popped out. It was the skylight, and there was Mrs Slimebottom, and she looked up and she said, "You got the kite then?" She snatched it from him and disappeared, shutting the skylight and the entrance through the roof, leaving Jeffery trapped up on the roof. He didn't want to go anywhere further because the bird was down the other end. There was only one thing to do. "I know," said Jeffery. "I'll go down the chimney pot." He put his feet into the chimney pot and whizzed down, his hands above his head. Whoo! Whoa, bump, bump, bump. Ooh. He landed with a great thud in the fireplace of the dining hall. He was covered in soot, and a massive cloud of black smoke swirled around him. Wally, hearing the commotion, ran in and laughed his head off. He dragged Jeffrey out into the garden and pointed at him, saying how funny he was because he was covered head to toe in black soot. At that moment, a bird swept down. Jeffrey realised it was the same one from upstairs. The bird had had enough. It flew over them and made a great big deposit. Unfortunately, Wally was standing right in line of sight. It was Jeffrey's turn to laugh, and Wally was most upset. I hope you've enjoyed the story. Join me again next time, and I'll be telling you about the new girl. Till then, bye-bye.